Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Eljay Johnsen Show. This show airs every Saturday at 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you have any questions over the week, send them over to ljjohnson@gmail.com. And if you have any questions during the show, make sure you follow me on Twitter at the Eljay Johnsen, and go ahead and ask any questions using that as well as hashtag the Eljay Johnsen Show. Okay, so I am quite excited for my next guest. As many of you may recall, last week I had one of the contenders for one of the larger and more complete Bionicle collections in the world. Well, now I have the other man in the ring. That's right, his not actual nemesis nor enemy, but actually friendly rival, as we discussed in our last episode, and generally just an incredibly nice person. I am, of course, talking about the fantastic Vance, otherwise known as ToaLhikanHordika. How you doing today?
I'm doing very well, and yourself?
Oh, I'm doing, I got a little bit of a late start to the day, but it's working out. I got some tea, and I'm talking to you, so I'm pretty content.
Good, good. I like tea. That's one of my favorite beverages.
Oh, yeah, I've recently been living out on my own, and I think I've had more tea in these last few months than I would usually in all of last year. It's just...
Well, it's better tun coffee. Less caffeine. I like to think it's a little better for you.
Yes, handedly, yeah. I differ greatly from my younger brother in that respect. He loves coffee. Like, a ton of shirts saying, oh, caffeine addict, or coffee tastes like heaven, stuff like that. It's like, come on, man.
Or don't talk to me till I've had my coffee.
Yeah. Just brew it. Loves it.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's go ahead and jump in. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into Lego and maybe the overall Bionicle community, and just let us know a little more about you.
Okay, well, to start, my name is Vance, as LJ already told you. Gosh, where do I even start? When did I get into Lego? That started probably before I can remember, with Duplos back when I was 2 or 3 years old. Of course, I wasn't really into Legos that much between the ages of, I'd say, 5 or 7. What got me back into it was at my church. They had they had a Sunday school type of thing, and they had like a little gift area, or not gift, but like a prize area where if you answered certain questions correctly during Sunday school, you could get points or little fake dollars or whatever, and you could purchase little prizes. And I remember I got the Lego Star Wars Luke's land. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. What was the name of his speeder? Was it a land speeder? I'm trying to remember what it was called. But I got that. It was a Lego Star Wars little thing. And at that point, I realized that I was probably about 7 or 8 years old, that I really liked Legos. And that started quite the obsession. That I didn't realize how big of an obsession I'd started at that point. So for several years, I'd been collecting Lego Star Wars. I remember when the first Millennium Falcon set came out in 1998 or 99. I still have that in storage, actually. I'm sad to say it's in storage, but I just don't have the room for it in my apartment currently.
Understandable.
But I was so big into Lego Star Wars back when I first started. It was great. And what was it, 2001 when Bionicle first started? I was already receiving the Lego Club magazines in the mail, or whatever it was called back then. I know it's changed names several times. And I received the first Bionicle comic, and that got me into Bionicle. I was pretty hooked from the beginning. I didn't start becoming more of a story buff until 2002, I'd say, but I was immediately attracted to the lore of Bionicle. That was just huge. And I don't want to say that Lego Star Wars took a back seat, because I still got a couple sets here and there. But I'd say by 2004, I was pretty much exclusively collecting Bionicle at that point when it came to any kind of toys or Legos in general. And I've just been huge into it since. I started collecting them. I mean, at the time when Bionicle came out, I was just barely 11 years old. And I did have a job at that point, believe it or not. I actually used to deliver newspapers on the weekends, so I actually had some form of income, while it wasn't much. And believe me when I say I spent as much of it as I possibly could on Bionicle, from the sets to whatever else. But from the beginning, I was always kind of a completionist with my collection. So I bought as many sets as I could, and I also had a very generous grandmother who at the time owned her own business, and money was not much of an issue for her. And whenever my birthday came around, she would always ask me, "What do you want?" And I would tell her, here's these set numbers in the Lego catalog. And sure enough, a week later, I'd get a box full of summer wave of sets or whatever. So I was extremely fortunate in that. I was extremely fortunate in that respect. In ways that I know many other people were not.
Yeah.
So I was very, very spoiled. I will absolutely admit that. I was not the sole contributor to my success as a Bionicle collector in the beginning, up until about 2006 or 7. At that point, I was 100% on my own for buying them. Trying to figure out where I should stop here, but basically,
you're good. Keep going.
Okay. Yeah. So I bought pretty much every set you could think of. One of each. I was very big on getting every year's wave, summer and winter waves of Bionicle sets, all the way till that ended in 2010. I think the last set that I got was, I can't remember if it was the Scopio or if it was the Titan size Machinui set. It was one of those two, but I remember it was officially after Bionicle had been canceled because I didn't have the money for them at the time, and I'm pretty sure it was Machinui. Machinui is my last one, and I remember I got him on eBay, still new in package and everything, but I was so upset that I'd missed actually buying him in Toys R Us, because by the time I could afford him, the Bionicle was already over. They weren't selling it. And I'm pretty sure I ended up paying about 2 or 3 times more than what it sold for retail price. But I was so excited to finally have it. I was like, "This is my crowning piece. I have the full collection." As far as sets go, I didn't get into the play sets, nor did I get into the collectibles at that point. Mm-hmm. I had a little bit of the collectibles collection, but I had nowhere near enough disposable income to go around buying tons of mask packs and disc packs and chrono packs, etc. Mm-hmm. And it was in 2011, when I was 21 years old, I got a new job and was getting paid very, very well. So I had quite a bit more disposable income to play around with. I had just gotten out on my own, and living expenses were pretty minimal at the time too. So I was pretty excited. I was still really a kid, honestly. Just getting out on my own, realizing I got. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Apologies for that.
Oh, you're good. I check my phone every single time in a panic, going, "Oh no, they will have my head." But you're fine.
Yeah. That won't be happening again.
Awesome. You're cool.
So, sorry, I lost my train of thought a little bit. Okay, so yeah, I was still pretty much a kid even at 21 years old. I was not yet married, didn't have any kids yet, and I had all this disposable income. So, and Bionicle was over at that point, so I figured, okay, what am I gonna do? I gotta get more of this collection. So first thing I did, I think it was I bought the play sets, which for years I convinced myself that I didn't want. I think it was mostly just because I couldn't afford it. Mm-hmm. So there might have been a little bit of envy there towards other people that had them, but I ended up getting those, and I was so excited. I was like, "Oh, look at all these cool little Bionicles!" Sorry, I know I said Bionicles, not Bionicle.
It's okay. You said Legos earlier. I will forgive you.
Okay, I apologize. Please forgive me.
Okay.
I was gonna say, I'm 27 years old now, and I have 2 kids. My priorities and the way I word things with S's at the end have changed a little bit.
Fair enough. That I can understand.
So I got the play sets, and then believe it or not, it wasn't until then, when I was 21 years old, I attended my first Brick Fair as well in Virginia, and people had introduced me to Bricklink. I was not aware of Bricklink's existence before that point, so that was all it took to get me to start completing my Kanoe and Kanoe Nuva collection, which I'd wanted to do for years, but I'd had an incomplete collection for so long. So, and when I realized, oh, hey, look, this seller's got 30 of the masks I need, and I can get them all for like $25 plus shipping. This is awesome. Yeah, I'm going to spend the money on that. So I wound up getting a full Kanoe and full Krana and Krana Kal collection. Just the base ones, of course, not the super special collector's ones at the time. Mm-hmm. And got a full Kanoka collection, all the discs that were sold in the packs, and I didn't really bother with the Ratuka at the time. I'm still not sure if I should count those as collectibles or not. And,
yeah, I can understand your hesitation there. They're really strange.
Just a lot.
Yeah.
Like, oh look, a little helicopter blade.
Oh, this one's a slightly different shade of green.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But that makes all the difference on the power based on who's shooting it or something like that. I don't know.
Some story explanation. Yeah.
There was some weird. I used to know it all. I'm sad to say I've probably forgotten quite a bit, but I was pretty hardcore into the story for a long time. I could recite everything from names to powers to the element they were associated with, the village they lived in, the weapons they had, uh, all this stuff. I might still have a lot of it back in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
Um, so after I completed all that, the one thing I didn't have was a complete Crota collection, and this is where my first exposure to Mask Collector actually came in. Was he was selling his Crota collection on BZ Power? He put up an auction for it, and again at this point I'm still single, still no kids, nothing like that. You know, I'm doing fine financially, and uh, I'm realizing I'm like, hey, I could probably outbid most of these people on BZ Power. Like this was not always the case, because I remember I poured over some of the old auctions that had gone on over the years and seeing how much people had paid for things. But I was like, I think I might actually have a realistic shot of getting this. So very quickly, I outbid somebody by a lot,
Oh my
just to make
goodness.
sure that I could scare them away, with their tail tucked between their legs. And and sure enough, I won it. So that was pretty cool. That was my first taste of like a really big, I guess big collectibles collection, because that's what was it, 259 pieces, I think. Please forgive me if I'm wrong in that figure. I think it was 259 or so. It was in that ballpark, in the general area.
Hmm.
So I got the full set of Crota, and that was pretty exciting. And then I think it was at that point that I started getting interested in some of the more rare collectibles, like really really hard to find stuff. I think it was the vacuum metal Chronicle I got into, because there were some people selling them both on BZ Power and on eBay, and possibly a couple other sites that I don't remember at the time or right now.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think it took me about a year or so, and I'd actually gotten a full set of 8 vacuum metal Chronicle. It was pretty amazing how quickly I was able to assemble that just by paying attention and outbidding others.
Wow. Now,
And
for
yeah,
those who
go
may
ahead.
not be aware of what a vacuum metal chronicle is, could you explain that and the difference between a light gray chronicle?
Yes. So back in 2003, when Lego had put out the Borat Cowl, many of you may remember that they randomly packaged throughout like the whole, what would you even call it, batch, or not even batch, but the whole line of the Borat Call sets. They had randomly packaged one of 5,000 white metal Chronicle, which it was a physical, or sorry, yeah, physical metal Chrono Za that they randomly distributed through these, and they also were distributing 72 sterling silver Chronicle, just randomly packaged, and random people would get them. And the story behind the vacuum metal Chrono is distributed the sterling silver and the white metal variants of the Chrono. Their original plan was to distribute plastic Chrono that had chrome applied to them. I believe it was. I believe the process that they used to bind the chrome to it was called vacuum metallization, if I remember correctly. So that was what Lego was originally going to do. Is they were going to take all 8 varieties of the Chrono, however many. I don't know if there was a determined number, and they were going to vacuum metallize them, and they were going to distribute those with the Borat Call. But I believe there was some kind of production error, or they weren't able to produce as many as they wanted in the time they needed, so they fell back to using actual metal as opposed to solid plastic. For those of you that don't know, the Chrono just the regular Chrono that were distributed with the Borat Call, those lines, they were more of a rubbery material. You can actually quite literally use them as an eraser. I was very,
What?
very dismayed. And, I've seen people do it. I promise you, I've never done this myself. I had friends growing up who, when they got out of BIONICLE, out of Legos, I had many people give me pieces and stuff, but I've seen people use Crota and Crota as erasers. It's a very disgusting thing to witness.
I've never heard of anyone even thinking about doing that. What the heck?
I'm sorry to introduce you to these evils that exist in the world, but now you need some of the sick things that people do.
Ugh. It's like trying to use the chrome how as a piece of chalk. Oh gosh. That doesn't sound like a good idea.
I agree. Oh, I wholeheartedly agree with you. I promise you, again, disclaimer, I've never done this. I've just seen people do it.
Oh goodness! Wow.
So it was a bit, just to describe what the Krana, the Krana and Krata, for a matter of fact, what the Krana were. So Lego never officially distributed those. Well, I mean, I guess they did, but as far as in a retail sense, they never officially distributed these vacuum metal Krana that never fully made it out to the public. Um, so what they ended up doing is, some of you may also remember the Proto Squad, which I was never a member of. I'm sad to say. I don't. Looking back on it, I have no idea why I tried becoming a member of it, but wouldas, couldas, shouldas don't count. So I guess I won't dwell on that any longer. But they had the Proto Squad, and I guess the children or adults, whoever the members of this group, were able to receive packages from Lego every so often. I don't know how often it was, like once or twice a year, and it will come with promotional materials in it in relation to BIONICLE. And in 2003, all the Proto Squad members received a vacuum metal Chronicle and also a prototype of the vacuum metal Krana, which was just a solid, hard plastic Krana with no metal applied to it, no chrome. So it was just kind of a light gray color, almost like the dark gray Krana that came with the Levac Va sets, but it was a much lighter shade of gray. So those were distributed to only just a select number of people that were a member of this group back in 2003, and they had these pieces. So they've been floating around on the internet for years, since they were first distributed from 2003 onwards. And it was about 2012 or so that I started collecting them, got the full set of them. And during that time, also procured several white metal Chronicle. There were many people selling them on BZ Power and eBay. I think at one point I'd had like 9 or 10 of them, just because I could. I was enjoying buying them and then also reselling them later. I was I wouldn't say I was trying to exploit or take advantage of anybody, but I was just happy having a whole stash of them. I was like, oh, this is so cool. I have a stash of them just because I can. And but then, when I realized there was a resale market for them, I was able to make a little bit of a profit on them. I mean, no more than maybe $20 to $50, but it was something. I was like, oh well, hey, I'm out this money for now, and now I can resell them, and this is great. So I had those, and then there was a seller on eBay. And I think what it was, I don't think they worked for Lego. I don't believe they did. I think they knew somebody who worked for Lego. And somehow they got a hold of a big stash of the gold-plated Kanoka discs from 2004 promotion with the Kanoka Club. For those of you that may or may not remember that, were all the toolmatchers. Doesn't sound like you remember it fondly.
No. It's more like oh my goodness, it was so long ago.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So, but for those of you who don't remember that as well, the Kanoka Club, or at least just these Kanoka codes, the Toametru sets, and I think maybe the Vaki sets, I might be wrong about that. They came with these little cardboard sheets, sheets that you could pull out with the set, and you could open it, and it was an instant win game basically. Either you won something or you didn't. And I think there was some number of people that actually got to win gold-plated Kanoka discs. So this person got a hold of a stash of them. I mean, like, had to have been at least 20 of them. And they started selling them on eBay. And of course, the moment I first saw that, buy it now, $100, like easily. That was all they were selling it for. I was like, heck yes, I'm going to buy that. But I started talking to the seller, and I was like, well, how many of these do you have? And I was able to work out a deal with them where I got a bunch of those too, and was able to resell them in the future, later on in the future, which was pretty great. So at one point, I had several collectibles on me. At one point, I think I had almost 10 white metal Chronicle. At one point, I had 2 sterling silver Chronicle, and I had well over 6 of those gold-plated Kanoka discs on hand at one point. And I'm not sure if I ever took pictures to prove it. I'll have to dig through some of my photos. I know I have some photos to prove some of these things. Yeah, I'm sorry. I feel like I've gone off track just a little bit.
You've been perfectly on track. It's just been a steady stream of information, so it's been great. But we'll go ahead and start dissecting things and breaking it down. So, obviously, like you mentioned earlier, you have all of the Construction Lego Bionicle sets. You also have all of the play sets. So you are contending, at least with Andre, for the larger or more complete. Because we determined you can't really have a complete Lego Bionicle collection, but you can have one of the more complete ones.
Yeah, I would say And he would not be happy with me for saying this. I would say as far as part count goes, I've definitely got him beaten as far as official sets and collectibles go, because I can still fill you in on a few other pieces I have that he definitely does not at this time. No, and that's fine. He's made me some generous offers for them in the past, and I politely refused. Like, no, I think I'm going to hold on to these for now. If I ever, God forbid, if I ever do completely lose interest or any passion for Bionicle whatsoever, and I decide to resell them, there's nobody whose hands I would probably rather trust them in than his. Just
fair enough. That's a good
point.
Put
that on the record. I feel like he would definitely appreciate them just as much, if not more, than I do. So, and I heard last week that he said the same thing in regards to me about the Platinum Voki, to which I was very touched. And I still hold out hope that someday in the distant future, when I'm 50 years old, maybe he'll sell it to me for hopefully less than what he bought it for. I don't know if I can justify paying that.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask, that was my next immediate question. Would you pay $15,000 for the
No, but I have another story in regards to the Platinum Voki that I believe Mass Collector knows, and a few other people do. And I believe I do have the chat history or the private message history on BZ Power to prove this. I almost got the Platinum Voki.
Oh, no.
I was very bitter about this for a long time.
Oh.
I'm sad to say. I was so close. Should I go on a tangent? Fill you in on this
real quick. Before you do that, I want to make two quick comments. First of all, if I were you, I would absolutely try and buy the Platinum Voki, but for $15,001, just so I can say that I have now the highest amount that anybody has ever paid for it by 1 cent. Secondly, for anyone listening, if you have any questions for either of us, feel free to head on over to Twitter, hashtag the Eljay Johnsen Show, at Eljay Johnsen, the Eljay Johnsen rather, and ask anything that is pertaining to the subject, and we will try and get around to it before the end of the show. Now, please, tell me how close you came to the sun, Icarus.
So close. So this was, I remember very vividly, this was 2012. 2012, probably around October, November timeframe. The original owner of the Platinum Voki, Chase was his name. I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I am supposed to give that information out, but that was his name, his first name. He joined BZ Power, and he made people aware that he had the Platinum Voki. And I believe he might have mentioned that he was considering selling it. He might not have, but I immediately gave him a personal message and expressed extreme interest in this. And at the time, I definitely did not have the money to buy it, but I was willing to find the means very quickly. I mean, just like Mass Collector did, I would have taken out a personal loan just to get it. I mean, it would have been worth it. Sorry, almost 2-year-old son is outside my door, and he's trying to get in. So if you hear any noises, that is him.
Okay.
Please forgive that. So he made it, evident that he owned it. I PM'd him, said, I am so interested. Please tell me how much you want. And he asked me how much would I be willing to offer. And I told him, I think the most I was able to muster up at that point was just about $5,000.
Oh.
And he actually said that would have been about sufficient. But he definitely wanted to sell it to somebody in person. He didn't want to ship it. And at the time I was posted overseas, so I wasn't in a position to go and meet him, at least not right immediately then. But I would have worked something out. Believe me, in retrospect, I look back at it, it's like, even if I just needed to fly to California for a weekend, I would have paid, gosh, it would have been over $1,000 for the round ticket from where I was coming in South America. It would have been so beyond worth it to me just to get a hold of that piece.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he told me that he would get back to me, and I still kick myself occasionally for not trying to reestablish contact with him sooner, because a couple months went by. We got into 2013, and I think it had only been a couple of months, and I want to say it was January or February. I reached back to him and I said, hey, are you still looking to sell this thing? I really, really, really want to. And then he got back to me and told me that he had sold it. And I was heartbroken. I was so heartbroken. And again, it wasn't like I was this close to cracking a deal. Maybe in my head I was closer to getting it than I really was. But I mean, in my head, I think, as far as I know, nobody else had made him an offer like that. And then, eventually it showed up on eBay. My stories paralleling with Mass Collectors here for for $30,000, and at that point I just said, nope, forget this, I'm out.
Yeah, that's a bit much.
This is never happening. I resigned myself. It's never going to wind up in my hands. And then Mass Collector got it, and then the crushing moment for me, and I mean, it was bittersweet because I was happy that at least another collector who could appreciate it got a hold of it. But when he posted his video of his journey to pick it up, and all that, I'm almost positive in that video the second owner of the Evoke who sold it to him showed him the receipt, or the what do you call it, the bill of sale?
Yeah.
Between him and the original owner, he paid him $5,000 for it.
I think he actually paid him less.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, just drive the knife a little deeper into my heart.
Oh, fudge! I'm sorry, man. I think.
I think you're right.
Unfortunately, I believe that the final sale that the original owner paid was about $3,000.
So again, you understand why this still hurts me a little bit to this day to think about.
Yeah, I can't understand that. Oh man, gosh darn.
But again, and honestly, I would credit it to my having kids. Having kids changes your priorities a bit. I'm not as anywhere near as obsessed or concerned about it anymore. I do still hold out hope that maybe someday again, maybe in another 30 years, maybe it'll fall into my hands. But I'm not losing sleep over it, and I'm glad that it's with somebody who can appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. That's understandable because Andre, he's got it. He has a very nice place for it. He keeps it well managed and hidden. And I feel like, having spoken with him, I think the mask is safe between the two of you. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I and again, maybe I wasn't as close to it as I'd like to think I was, because my communication with the original owner wasn't as frequent as it should have been. Again, I kick myself. It's like I should have been more persistent. I should have told them, I'll come out and meet you. Please, just hold it for me. $5,000, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember, though. That was very crushing for me. That it was late at night, too. It was so depressing. I wasn't even married yet, and I was watching this video. And when I saw that he bought it for less than what I offered, it was just crushed.
Oh, man.
And I was like, are you telling me I could have had it if I convinced this brat?
Oh, yeah. See, that's the thing, too. Because this guy was originally on his way. The original owner.
Melting it down, I heard, or pawning it off, right?
He wanted to go to a jewelry store to see how much feasibly it would be worth. At that point, it would have been slag. It would have just been melted down for nothing if he had sold it. It was happenstance that he passed the brick hut owned by the second owner.
I would not to get overly religious here, but I would go so far as to say it was God's providence that led that to happen.
It's divine intervention that kept Platinum Evoke on the earth. But yeah, no, it's just like, okay. Clearly, you don't understand its value here.
Yeah. And it's like, man, I'm so... again, and that does make me glad to know that it's finally with somebody who appreciates it. Oh, thank God.
Exactly. Andre and I, we spoke about it, and I'm hoping to travel on down to at least, review it in person.
Mm-hmm. Oh, gosh, that'd be amazing.
Have you not been able to see it in person?
No. I've never... I believe he lives in Utah.
He does, yeah.
Yeah. I've never been to Utah before. Someday, if I ever wind up on the west coast of the U.S., I will definitely make the trip out to meet him in person someday.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
See. Due to the nature of my job, I move around frequently every 2 or 3 years or so. So I can wind up in other countries. I can wind up in other parts of the states. So just someday, it's on my bucket list.
But fair enough. That's understandable. But all right, so Platinum Evoke aside, you still have an unbelievably impressive collection. Like, I find pride within my own collection, because I went ahead and I got all the construction sets, and I was like, okay, I'm happy with this. I've reviewed them all. I'm done. Of course, a lot of people are trying to get me to get the system sets, but that's a whole nother discussion. You went a step further. You have some collectibles that up until I spoke with you or knew about your extensive collection didn't know existed.
Yeah, so I've got do you want me to try to rattle them all off based on memory, or do you want to ask me about specific
I've got them here. Yeah, I've got a few here.
Go ahead. I'll respond to whatever you got.
All right, so a lot of these are actually Kanoka. The three of which I was unaware of were
Mhm.
the SDCC Kanoka, San Diego Comic-Con.
Yes. The one that was supposed to come with the Vakama, but instead they ended up selling the Vakama with an apology that didn't come.
That's also something I want to touch on. If anyone watching this video, you will see there's a picture on the screen right now of the SDCC Vakama canister and the disc. And actually, Vance, let's go over that real quickly. Explain this really peculiar situation.
So this was again. It seems like Lego had a number of production errors when it came to the Bionicle line, particularly for promotional items. So at Comic Con, especially San Diego Comic Con and New York Comic Con, usually whoever it is, whether it's a comic book or Lego or something, they got to sell something special, something that's exclusive to this event. For 2004, Lego was going to sell I don't even remember how many it was supposed to be, but they sold a number of Toa Vakama sets. And instead, I don't know if it was instead of or in addition to his translucent red Toa disc Kanoka, he was supposed to come with a Kanoka that had the San Diego Comic-Con seal printed on it. And again, some kind of production error. They weren't able to produce enough of them in time for the event. But they'd already printed the promotional packaging for the Vakama advertising it. So they still sold it as a Comic-Con exclusive, but it did not come with the disc. And I have no clue how many of those discs actually physically exist. It was owned by somebody else. I believe all the Kanoka you're to mention were with somebody else. And through a very fortunate turn of events, at least fortunate for me, I was able to purchase these from this individual. And due to the individual's privacy, I can't get too much into how, when, why I procured them. But I've got them.
Okay, so that's understandable. Yeah, it's a bizarre situation, but I think you are one of, if not the only person that owns both the container as well as the physical disc.
Yes, and I remember I didn't actually get the container until I bought the disc. When I had the disc, I was like, well, I gotta get the container to go with this. I wonder how much this would be worth together. How much do you think somebody would be willing to pay to get these two items, in the same lot? So I very quickly went on Bricklink, and I think I bought one. It must have cost me like $70. It was much more than it was actually worth. But to have those two things together, it was more than worth it for me.
That's understandable. A couple of other discs. The tan Kanoka is one, but it's kind of just a blank Kanoka and tan. That one is
and it's debatable on if you could even call it a Bionicle. It might have been a Throwbots thing. I don't really remember the history on that one.
Yeah, that's perfectly understandable. But the one that I particularly love, and I'm really glad that you have taken a high quality photo of it so I can oogle at it, is the UDD Kanoka. It is a blank Kanoka with only the Unity Duty Destiny symbol on it. Where did that come from?
I don't know what the story behind it is. I just know it existed. The owner that I procured it from had procured it himself from somebody who worked for Lego. That's all I've got for you. I think it was something that may have been distributed to a very select number of Lego employees, and this is just me speculating. I don't know this for a fact. But again, ultimately in the same batch, that one ended up coming to me.
Okay, fair enough. I think there is a topic on BZ Power. It is a phenomenal topic. And I actually want to touch upon the community side of things in just a moment. But it discusses all of these different rare, valuable Kanohi and Kanoka. So I will link that in the description below for anyone listening who wants to learn more. So I figure that is something that often goes understated. With your involvement with Bionicle, you were actively in the community. You were a BZ Power moderator, staff member for a time. Tell me more about that. I'm curious to learn more about the golden age of the Bionicle community.
Oh gosh. Okay. So yeah, the part of my being a huge fan of Bionicle, I think it was 2004, late 2004, very late 2004, that I wound up joining BZ Power. And again, being a huge story buff, I was so excited and passionate about everything Bionicle. I knew pretty much everything that you could know when it came to it. I was just very passionate about the story, and I believe it was around 2007. 2007. It was when the serial started, when Greg started doing the podcast for some of the Bionicle story, and submitting little story snippets on BionicleStory.com.
Yep.
It was during the time that BZ Power started a reference keeper team. and they basically handpicked a few people from the community who were big story buffs and said, hey, you guys should start compiling information and, I guess, organizing the lore into a compressed, centralized format that anybody can access. So that was something I became a member of, and I was so excited about it. I mean, I was jazzed way back in the day. I've almost forgotten about this, but for those of you who know BZ Power, there's a merit system on the forum where when you first start out as a member, you have a little bar under your screen name or username, whatever you would call it, and it was like halfway full of protodermis. And based on, if you were not a very good member of the community, if you spammed a lot or broke the rules, you could have the level of protodermis in your bar reduced, and eventually you could get banned. But the other way, though, is if you did well and you were really helpful around the forums and you helped, I wouldn't say enforce, but led by example on how to obey the rules on the forum, you could gain proto. So that was something I was very passionate about. I remember when my first proto boost was because I had contributed to a story, something that made it on the news, and I had reported it like a month before somebody else did. But unfortunately, I didn't have any photographic evidence because I did not have a digital camera. Neither did my parents. I just remember saying I saw this promotional item at Kmart. I think it was a combo pack of Sidorak and rack and maybe a ToaLhikanHordika or something like that. And I told them, like, I recorded all the information. Here's the set number. This was the piece count. It looked like this. But since I didn't have any photo evidence, they didn't report on it. And then somebody else reported on it a month later and had a photo. So then it made the front page, and then they gave me a photo boost because they're like, well, hey, you were actually the first one to report this, so here you go. I was just so jazzed about it. So it was my, I guess, goal while I was an active member of the BC Power community was like, oh, someday I'm going to get that full proto bar. It was just kind of a, I don't know, feather in your cap type of thing. It's just something that it would be so great to reach that point. It was something I was definitely very heavily aspiring to at the time. And so basically when the time came and I was asked to become a staff member, I actually was still one proto boost away from having that full bar. So my boost to full proto came with my coming on board with the staff. So I was just so excited. That was like the greatest thing that could have happened to me at the time when it happened. And so for the longest time, I was given reign over making sure serials were recorded in a centralized place. So that was largely what I did. I know I contributed to a few other things, but it's been so long I can hardly remember, what it even was. But that was my big thing. Was anytime a new serial came out, I would add it to the topic that we had a format established for how the stuff would be listed out and compiled. So I did that, and then the BIONICLE story ended. So then after a couple of years, I think they disbanded the reference keeper team, and I was given an option to stay on board as a staff member, and I could move to something else. So I chose to be a moderator in storylines and theories, and I think a couple of other sub forums. But I really wasn't that active at that point. At this point, I was already 22, 23. I think I'd just gotten married. Was working on college classes online, and about to have my first kid. So it just I ended up resigning. It was too much for me to keep up with. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think I can end there as far as my time in BZ Power was. I still linger around the forums a bit, mostly just to check the buy, sell, and trade forum to see if anybody has anything that I'm still interested in or that I'm still hunting down that I can, hopefully get a chance to get.
That makes sense, yeah. Okay, that's fascinating. That I obviously, I'm sure we could talk for hours about being on BZ Power and doing all these different things. You were in a slightly different area than I was, though, because I just did comics.
Yeah.
But I peruse storyline and theories all the time, and got to be there for whenever Greg was doing X, Y, or Z poll to make X, Y, or Z change to the story.
Canon, yes. Oh gosh, those were the days. I remember that. That was another thing. I think that was what lured me in the most, was the Ask Greg topics, the ability to talk with Greg Farsty. I mean, I probably held him in too high of regard at the time. I don't want to say I idolized him, but it might not be far from the truth to say that I did at the time. I was very much a Greg Farsty fan. He could do no wrong in my eyes, and yeah, but the ability to personally pretty much had full reign of the BIONICLE story from what I understand.
At some point, eventually, he did. Well, like,
Yeah.
obviously he does now, but yeah,
Well, and
no.
even then, you could say that he did, short of anything that had already been established. I mean, he couldn't alter something that had already been established that hadn't already been revealed. Such as what Montanui was and all that. But
Mhm.
but he was given a considerable amount of reign in this respect to the story.
Yeah, no, absolutely, definitely. And have you read a book called Brick by Brick, perhaps?
Mm, you know, I want to say it rings a bell, but I'm not sure.
Okay, if you ever get the chance, I know you're a busy guy, so it's a fascinating book. It talks about the history of Lego, and it has a chapter on Bionicle, and it was really interesting to hear how Greg ended up getting into it because he joined BZ Power to quell rumors that Bionicle was ending in 2003, which he said, "Hey, listen, it's not happening. It's not ending in 2003." Little did anyone know, apparently there were some massive, massive sales issues in 2003, and that the Rockshi apparently did so well they saved the theme, so I won't say it's unfounded, but do you remember those rumors, like, at all? Were you around at that
Actually,
time?
this is the first I heard of it. 18 years later. Well, maybe a little less than that, but
Yeah,
no, no, I'd never heard of that before. Actually, that's interesting.
interesting. Okay. All right, well, oh boy, that is nuts. Well, in that case, that covers the community side of things, so we'll shift back to the collection here. And I'll take this opportunity to once again um, mention that if you guys have any questions or comments or anything, go ahead and head over to Twitter at the Eljay Johnson's hashtag the Eljay Johnsen Show. Remember when it was a pound sign?
Yeah,
Uh,
yes, I do. It's and honestly, I'm so I don't want to say inactive, but I so seldom use social media. I just stalk other people, mainly family members and close friends, just to keep up with them. But I still have a hard time with the hashtags. I feel like I'm starting to become an old person because I'm like, what are these young people doing? I don't understand. Eating
yeah.
Tide Pods, using pounds, saying hashtag. I don't understand.
Oh gosh, the Tide Pod thing, that's ridiculous.
Oh, and I have to say, for those of you out there that want to eat Tide Pods, I need to make you aware that there's perfectly good cotton candy in the walls of your home right now.
Oh my gosh. The installation, you're out of your mind.
Hey, they're killing themselves already. Let's just clean out the gene pool at this point.
Oh my goodness. I feel like if Bionicle, like in its natural state right now, as it was in 2001, if it were to come out with all these collectibles, but it was come out in 2018, I feel like we'd be seeing the Kanohi Mask Challenge, but it wouldn't be like the one Lego did in Generation 2. It would be like the Tide Pod Challenge where people would try and like swallow a whole mask.
I'm sad to agree with you.
Oh boy.
Oh my gosh.
So
Yeah.
that's actually something, one other thing before we get into questions and comments here that I want to touch upon, and very briefly. That's Generation 2. So obviously, Generation 1, you've got that covered completely.
hmm
Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on the second generation, the collectibles, and how the handling was dealt with, in your opinion.
Oh, do you really want to open this can of worms?
I figure we'll cover it for maybe another 5 or so minutes, because we do have some
Okay.
comments and questions that I feel are going to be very fun to discuss.
Okay. Oh, uh-oh. Okay. My feeling on Gen 2, I was so excited. I mean, that was great. It was like, oh my gosh, Bionicle is coming back. I get to and now I'm even more financially stable and I have money to play with. I'm gonna buy all the sets. I'll buy doubles of all the sets, build all the combiners and do everything the way I would have if I could go back to Gen 1, as an adult with money and buy all the things and get everything as soon as I could. So so I was excited, and to this day, I still love the sets. I think the sets were great. I was a little iffy about the CCBS building system. That sorry, I guess that was redundant. That was like saying ATM machine. Uh, but I was a little hesitant about it. But I ultimately I like the aesthetic of it. I think the sets looked great. I think the sets were awesome for the most part. As far as the story goes, the only thing that I will say to keep the short is what story.
Oh, ow. The sting.
Well, what story? There was a story to this. They didn't even give the villagers a species name. It took forever. It took so long for them to give the the village elders a name that they never even made it on sets. I mean, come on.
Oh, well.
I was very disappointed. I feel like it was not handled well. I know that there were people behind it that had a passion for it, and I don't blame them for it. I'm sure there were people that were heavily invested in it and wanted it to succeed and gave it their all. But not having the insider's perspective from it, I can't say exactly what happened, but there was a disconnect somewhere because, man, they dropped the ball when it came to advertising it, and there's a part of me that so badly wants to think that somebody genuinely had a passion for making the Journey to One. But I was excited about that. I mean, it was already into the second year of it. I was still disappointed with the lack of story and the depth of it, the depth of the lore. I can't even say there really was a depth. There really wasn't. I mean, they would try to throw something in there to sound all mystical and mysterious, but then there was never any real explanation or delving into it at all. It was like, oh yeah, here's a mystery, and leave it at that. But oh my gosh, Journey to One. I feel about Journey to One the way that I heard some people felt about the Lego Ninjago movie, where I was in a position to like it. Like you didn't have to try hard. I was already about as biased as you could possibly get. I was like, I want to love this. I want to love this. And then I watched it, and you just heard the way some of the lines were delivered, and
two things about Journey to One that frustrated me the most. One, I wasn't Liwa, but that's more a personal thing and a positioning matter. And two, this actually bothers me more than the ending. The one thing they could have gotten right, the one thing that probably would have made me, complacent. Duty, unity, destiny. You just had to switch one. It was just the order of the words.
Or even better, sorry, another one. Okay, was no, you're right. That's a good one to get hung up on. But when Akimu came out all charged up and large, Toa-sized, and Gali says, "So you are the Toa of Light." It's like, well, where did that come from? Lego has already completely established that this is not a continuation of G1. This is completely separate. So where the heck did you guys pull that out of?
Fair enough. Yeah, I feel
like... And it was like they're... Sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
It was like they were trying to do some kind of callback for the fans, but it was like, I'm surprised that even I, as a fan, made it to that point where Dolly was able to deliver that line. That show was just terrible. It still makes me cringe. What was funny is we actually had some other BZ Power or people that we met from BZ Power at our house at the time when Journey to One came out. There was myself, my wife, who was also a member of BZ Power, and two friends that were visiting us. So we kind of had a little viewing party. We were excited. We ordered food and everything, and it was so disappointing. I mean, it turned into a heckling fest more than anything else.
Oh yeah, no, it was. I just remember because I also watched it with friends, and there was just kind of a stunned silence after it was over. Nobody, and keep in mind this was when I was a member of TTV, and we ran a podcast where no one would be quiet ever. It was constant talking. So for us not to have anything else to say, something went wrong.
That's bad.
Yeah, I feel like we could talk for hours about Journey to One as well, and just how much of a fascinating instance that was.
I don't think I've watched it since 2016, but I should go through it again at some point just to give myself a good laugh.
Yeah, I kind of want to as well. But, yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead. We got some questions and comments. And
yeah, please. I know we're running out of time. Let's do that.
Oh, we're good. We can go a little over. Trust me. I just want to keep you if you need to get to anything.
No. I have dedicated time towards this, so we can go as long as you want.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so we'll start with something fairly simple, and keep in mind to anyone listening who has submitted questions, I'm not going in order, but I will get to everything. Warrior Studios asks, what was your first Bionicle set?
My first Bionicle set was a gift from I want to say it was a birthday present from a friend of my mother's. That was what it was. It was ToaLhikanHordika. That was my very first Bionicle set.
Darn. Liwa Mata?
Yes, Liwa Mata. And then I wanted, and then it was, I think it was actually before I got the first Bionicle comic. Like it was right when Bionicle launched that I got this. Because my birthday's in June, I believe it was June of 2001 that it came to the U.S. So yeah, like I just gotten, and then I think it was maybe a week or two later that the first comic came, and I was into it. And at that time, I was homeschooled for the record, so my mom had I guess a little reward system for me where if I did well enough, sorry, not good. I need to prove that homeschooling was not was not a mistake. we had a system where if I did well enough at the end of a semester, I get a report card. If I had all A's, I could get something of a certain value for that. I think like every A was worth $1 value, and I was able. I got enough A's. I think I'd gotten all, and I was able to then buy a full promotional package from Lego that had all 6 Toa and all 6 Turaga with it. So I ended up getting 2 Lewas, and I think I ended up handing one down to my sister at some point. But so my second one was the full set of Toa and Turaga.
Wow. Goodness gracious. Gosh, I'm still hung up on Lewa Mata because that's my favorite Bionicle.
I know. I would never have guessed.
Yep. Fair enough. And it's like, no, my first one, Galakal.
Oh wow! Oh, it's been a few years, but you're a few years younger than me, though, if I'm correct. So
I'm not entirely sure. I feel like we'll clarify that after the show. I'm curious, actually.
Okay, all right, yeah. Sorry, we don't have to discuss age.
No, it's cool. I'm actually legitimately curious, but almost certainly younger. You're married. All right. Next question. Okay, this guy's killing me. He did this last week with Vance. For another similar instance. Mount Huey, Huy, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, ask Vance about, gosh darn it, man, the gold how on Good Guy.
So I am very sorry, but you did cut out a little bit. I did catch enough to hear that you mentioned the gold how on Good Guy.
Yep,
the words preceding that, or before that?
Oh, just me going, oh, this guy. Ask Vance about the gold how on Good Guy.
My story is very similar to what happened with Mask Collector, except I guess I did it first with the gold how, and he did it second with the platinum Evoking. This was probably a year and a half ago or so. I think Swert had introduced me to this posting group, which is for the record, I can't give it an official endorsement. It's kind of a vulgar place, but it's funny. It's nice, passionate about Bionicle, and sometimes I get a laugh out of something when I probably shouldn't, and then otherwise there's funny content. So I found this group on Facebook and very quickly joined, and just enjoyed seeing what people posted. And I saw that this I don't know. I guess they deified Good Guy to some point. Some extent. It was really weird. I'll admit, on the bandwagon for that. I remember I saw a discussion where people were talking about all these different masks that they could put on Good Guy, or that they would love to see on him. And my wife was also joined the group as well, and we were talking amongst ourselves, and we're like, well, I've got a Good Guy, and I've got the gold how. That's kind of reaction I get. So I did it for that reason alone, was just to see what kind of reaction I would get, and it was pretty satisfying. The people's comments were pretty funny.
I first Vance, now you, or technically, chronologically, first you. Wait, did I say first Vance? I meant to say first Andre. First Andre, now you, but technically first you and then Andre. Gosh, darn it, man. I burned.
I'm sorry. I know how much you I know how much you detest him. I watched that video.
Listen, what happened, and it needed to. Okay, I feel that answers it adequately.
Okay.
I'm saving my favorite question for last because I feel like this is going to be fascinating to discuss in just a moment.
Okay.
But next question is from good old Stephen Wirt.
Oh.
Good old Swert.
Swert. So actually, there's an inside joke here. I won't go into it, but just call him Swert for a moment.
Swert.
Swert. So his first name is Swert and his last name is Wirt.
Okay, so Swert Wirt has a question, and he says, so Vance, what's the best Nuva cube you own, and why is it my gift?
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, I was fortunate enough to actually helped bring Sword out to my wedding back in 2013, and we actually had a good number of BZ Power folks there. Not too many that I guess maybe some you could say that were sort of famous back in the day, but just friends that both my wife and I had made over the years, and with the two of us BZ Power members getting married, we happened to attract a small number of BZ Power members to our wedding. Yeah, Squirt was one of them. That was such an honor to have him there. It was great to meet him in person. And I think it was, years before then, he'd made his original cube out of Lego system pieces. And gosh, I'd always, I would definitely not say envy, admired. I wasn't like, oh, I want the one you have. I very much admired. I was like, oh, that is so cool. And then we talked about it for years. I'm like, that is the coolest thing. You got to give me the instructions on how to build one of those someday. And when he came for our wedding, that was his wedding present to us. He made a mini Nuva cube, which I still proudly have displayed on my hutch on my desk at home. I love that Nuva cube. It is beautiful, and it is the best one that I own because it came from Squirt. If that answers his question, or I'm sorry, because it came from Squirt Wort.
Yeah. All right, I believe that would adequately answer Squirt Wort's question. Okay, awesome. Okay, so that's the last one. So this is a question by a gentleman by the name of Nick Voss. He's a set designer over at Lego right now.
Yeah, I know Nick Voss's name.
Awesome. All right. Vance. His question is as follows. Vance, you have all 4 unique infected How Nuva marked inside the eyes as 1 to 4. The same applies for all other color-blended collectibles: Metru, Fantoka, Mari, Glatorian, G2, even Rotuka. So how complete is your collection, really?
Ouch. I guess, I still have a long ways to go in that case. It'll be quite some time. I was not aware of that. I just knew there were 4 infected How Nuvas. You've just made me painfully aware of how incomplete my collection now is.
Oh my gosh, he had unveiled this nugget of information to me yesterday, and oh man, I couldn't even begin to fathom how many masks.
Oh, that would be so many. I'm pretty sure Andre will probably take that up as a challenge at some point. I don't know if I'll pursue that one.
Oh gosh, you know what? You're right.
But, no, my hat's off to him. I hope that his hopes to have a museum and all that and have this great complete collection or near complete come to fruition someday. And again, if I ever if for some reason I find myself in a position where I either need to or I'm just genuinely completely lost interest in BIONICLE, which I don't want to say is possible, but then again, I guess I can't discount it. You never know what the future may hold. I'll make sure that he gets it back and is able to have probably the most complete collection out there. But in the meantime, I'll keep competing with him as far as part count goes and the number of rare pieces. And I'm very honored that Nick Voss had a question for me. He was actually aware of my collection. I didn't know that he was aware of me. So that's pretty cool. And let me just throw out there for you, Nick, or anybody else that might be working for Lego who might have some inside information. My Chronicle collection is still missing 2 pieces. I have every rubber piece. I have a full set of vacuum metal Chronicle. I have the number 72 of 72 of the sterling silver Chronicle. I have one of the 5,000 white metal Chronicle. I'm still missing a ZA, that's XA, not ZA. I'm still missing a ZA and a VU, gray plastic Chronicle. If anybody has any information that could lead me to procuring one of these, I will pay you $100, no questions asked, for helping me close this deal. And I will buy the piece from somebody for an undisclosed amount. I will pay quite a bit, I'll just say. So while I'm on the air, I just want to throw that out there again. I'm still holding out hope that I can complete that set. That's my last. I guess that'll be the crowning part of my collection, is getting those last 2 pieces to complete my Chronic collection. That's what I'm still pursuing, since I've pretty much given up on the Platinum Evoke for the time being.
Mm-hmm. That's fair enough. I remember you discussing this when I spoke to you back in, I think, 2014-ish.
14 or so. And actually, thanks to you guys at TTV, I did end up procuring 1 or 2 more at the time. I don't remember how many I was missing at that point, but I'm down to just 2. And unfortunately, I think I've seen 2 or 3 auctions on either pop up on either eBay or BC Power over the last year or 2. with people, former Proto Squad members coming forward and saying, "Oh, hey, I still have these from years ago," and every time they end up coming forward with those, and I get so excited. I see the pictures, and it's like, darn it, I have that one. Please, God, someday, please let somebody realize that they have this and they put it out there so that I can buy it. I'm so desperate to have those last two pieces.
Gosh dang. Well, I didn't know you'd managed to get a couple from that interview we did. I'm super happy to hear that. And
It took a while, but I do credit it to that interview. There was at least one that I got because of that.
oh wow, fantastic.
So thank you guys, or thank you specifically.
Awesome. Well, that's great. And well, if I ever come across any, I'll let you know. I obviously don't have any.
Right.
uh,
But again, if somebody can lead me toward a sale, even if they're not the ones owning it, I will pay you $100, via PayPal or Google Wallet or whatever. No questions asked. $100, just like that.
that sounds like a pretty good deal. Finder's fee? That's awesome.
Yes. We'll call it a finder's fee.
Yeah. All right. In that case, we have one final question, also from Warrior Studios, and he wants to know, who is your favorite Makuta?
Oh gosh. Wait. G1 or G2?
I mean, come on, man. Yeah. Who here is gonna say, I really thought that the intricacy and the depth of Makuta G2's character was quite captivating.
Depth? Again, you're implying there was a story there. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm being a little too unkind. If there's anybody listening who was a part of G2, I applaud you for your effort. I really do appreciate everything that you put into it. It is not your fault that it failed so miserably. I just like laughing at it.
Listen, dude.
Okay,
it's
but
so
in answer to the question, and I hate to be stereotypical here, I always kind of had a bit of a soft spot for Pterodax. I loved our main Makuta from Gen 1. He was my favorite.
Yeah,
Quite,
I feel like that's fair.
Just an awesome character all around. I have to say, still to this day, as far as Bionicle books go, Time Trap has to be my favorite. I love being able to have that extra time with Makuta and learning more about him. And my close second would have to be, what was it, book 11 of Bionicle Legends? I hope I have the titles right. The final battle.
I feel like you are right. I'll double check, but I vaguely recall you. Yeah, I think that's correct.
Yeah, but the ending, and gosh, I mean that impacted me emotionally at the end of 2008. I mean, I knew Bionicle was still going on, but when I realized Makuta had won, I was stunned. I wouldn't go so far as to say I was depressed, but I was kind of sad for the next few days. Actually, I do remember it affected me so badly that I had dreams about it. And it was a good dream.
Yeah, it was stunning.
But I had but at that moment I was like, oh my gosh, like they actually had the bad guy win, at least for some time. Like that really happened. That's not a super common element to a lot of different storylines out there. But I was just like shocked. I'm like, he can't win, but he won. Oh my gosh, he did it.
Yeah, it was, and it was so. I believe it was masterfully pulled off. I thought they did a great job.
Gosh, it was everything. The reveal of Machinui and all that, and then Kuda, that was amazing. That takes me back. And again, that's just one of the millions of ways that G2 failed.
Yeah. Also, you were correct. It was Bionicle Legends 11, the final battle.
Okay, good. Hey, my memory's still there. I still remember it pretty well.
Yeah. Well, I think it's time for us to go ahead and wrap up. I can't thank you enough for making the time and being here. This has been a fascinating conversation. I've quite enjoyed chatting with you.
The feeling is very mutual. I'd love to do it again sometime. I'm sure we barely scratched the surface and all the different things that we could talk about.
Honestly, yeah. I still feel like we could talk about G2, the community on BZ Power, heck, even whether or not the combination models that they released in boxes count as sets. So,
so I don't know. I want to say if it had a set number of counts, but then that just opens up a whole different thing. They had all these packs that you didn't even build into combiners. So I don't know. If it came with an exclusive item, how's that? So that qualifies. Yeah.
I feel like we're on kind of a similar page there. My argument is if it came with an exclusive piece that you could not build the combination model without. So in the instance of like Takuta Nuva and Ultimate Doom, those masks are optional. But in the instance of Ernak, they're mandatory. He comes with tubes and
Okay,
the other
well,
three crack a dome.
you're not definitely. I almost forgot to count him as a combo model. I just always thought of him as his own entity.
Exactly, because like he has pieces exclusive to him.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, I like the exclusive mask. Again, if you couldn't get the mask anywhere else, I mean, regardless if you could build the model without it or not, I felt like that counted. So I guess that excludes Voparak. Though I would still count him because I think he was the last in that line of things. Oh, I guess Irnak counts as well. Oh, and then there was Vazon and Cardus. I forgot about that too. Gosh, I'm forgetting all sorts of things.
Yeah, it's a multi-level topic.
Yeah.
I've had my thoughts on it. It's like it's fascinating.
I would not. Ooh, sorry about that. That was my phone that time. I should have muted.
Nope.
But yeah, no, I would count those. I would count those bigger ones, but we can discuss that another time. Yeah.
Oh yeah, fair enough. Okay, well, I asked this to all my guests. Is there anywhere that you would like people to follow you on social media of any kind, or?
Oh gosh, I'm sorry. I'm the most boring person ever. I think I had a Twitter once, and I don't think I ever tweeted, and I think I ended up disabling it some time ago. No, I'm on Facebook, and I try not to friend anybody that I'm not familiar with, at least to some extent. So,
yeah.
No, I prefer to remain at least a little bit more of a private individual for now. But
I can relate.
But I'm happy to make appearances on shows like this if people ever want to ask me questions. You know, there are people who know me. You can reach out to LJ, reach out. If you know somebody who knows me, you know, feel free to use them to make a connection, and you know, I'll friend you on Facebook or something. I'm more than happy to talk to people.
Okay, awesome. I think that works out. And if you're all right with it, I have your brick shelf up with all the pictures of your collection.
Please, you can share that. I'm more than happy to see the views on that folder increase.
Okay, awesome. Sure, I will link that in the description below for anyone interested.
I'll try to update that at some point. I still most of my collection, I'm sad to say, is in storage right now, but I actually have the collectibles at home. Yeah, I've not reached the point where I would dare put those in storage yet.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Understandable. All right. Well, in that case, thank you all very much for listening. I hope you have had a good time, and I hope that all the questions have been adequately to your desire answered. And once again, thank you all very much for tuning in, be it live or for the recording that will come out hopefully later today. So once again, thank you all very much for listening. The Eljay Johnsen Show airs every single Saturday at, generally it should, the average standardized time is 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and if there are any deviations from that, I will let you all know on Twitter, where every Tuesday I will make a guest announcement, and you can get a bunch of different updates and see a bunch of different fun, really low-quality memes. So feel free to head on over there as well. And if you have any questions over the week, feel free to send them in to ljjohnson@gmail.com. And we actually did have a question from Leo Xander on that, and I feel like we basically got that answered throughout this. So, once again, thank you all for listening. And Vance, once again, thank you so much for being on today.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks for having me. I'll show up again anytime.
Excellent. Awesome. All right. Well, in that case, we will see you all next week. So, everyone, have a fantastic day.